Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Gerst. I've been hiring, firing, and mentoring executives, frontline employees, interns, and job seekers in companies around the world through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. I work with people in Hong Kong, India, Australia, and across the United States. What sets them apart? A lot, but there's more they have in common. And one of those commonalities is transition is a part of life. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions that are big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet, the people who can make the difference that matters to you right now. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big change. The insight track you're going to access during our future episodes is better than a crystal ball. It's the exact information you need to take that next step. Whether you're a new grad applying for your first professional job, someone looking to transition your work experience into a promotion, launching your own company, or maybe even starting to plan your retirement, you're in transition, and this series is for you. We all know transition can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have VIP access to the future you want. Are you tired of the uncertainty of being passed up? We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to the front of the line. So, if change is on your horizon, or maybe just the thought of change, you won't want to miss this discussion. It could be the exact edge you need to turn transition into an amazing opportunity. Marsha Friedman, thank you so much for being with us on this episode of People in Transition. I'm so excited to have you as our guest.
And Bob, I'm delighted to be here with you.
Marsha, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an elementary school teacher.
And what were the transition moments that occurred to you to get you from that picture of yourself as an elementary school teacher to where you're at today?
It's a long story, and I'll shorten it very quickly for you. But when I was graduating high school, there was a glut of teachers, and there weren't enough jobs. And my father, who I looked up to, talked me out of becoming a teacher. And so, like many young college students, I flipped through the college catalog and said, I like math. I don't know anything about business. Accounting sounds like fun, so I'll get a degree in accounting. And that was the beginning of my career. And when I graduated with my degree in accounting, I became an internal auditor in banking for a few years, then left banking and moved to an organization that I was subsequently with for over 30 years, Diebold, and started an internal audit and had a career that worked across the organization, very unusual career path, so that every few years I was able to reinvent myself and move from internal audit to a financial analysis, then had a stint as a national account manager for a number of years, worked on a special project team, then moved into the area of training and project management, and ultimately ended that career as the head of learning and organizational development for our logistics organization. And the biggest transition for me was when I was asked to take early retirement in 2013 from Diebold, and at the time was working on my master's in organizational leadership and was one semester away from that degree. So I took my early retirement, I finished my degree, and started the job search.
And how did you do in that transition, Marsha?
Well, it was a tough transition for me at the time because I had lost my husband to a massive heart attack in June, and I had lost my best friend the year before that. And then what felt to me like the loss of a job, felt like there were two legs out from underneath my stool. So I took some time off to finish my degree, to pick myself back up and get reorganized before I really started the job search. And at the time, I had decided I didn't want to work in a large organization again, and had the opportunity that came before me to do some work as a contractor for a small nonprofit. took the opportunity to start my own consulting practice at that point, and then moved from, and it was a 9-month assignment with them, and then transitioned from doing consulting work to coaching, which is really where my heart lies. It's really working with individuals to help them reach their full potential.
And Marsha, you mentioned taking some time off. If you're laid off or furloughed from your job, do you coach people to take some time off before they start searching for that next great opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. Because in any situation, whether you're laid off or you've taken a voluntary time out, so to speak, or you've been fired, you need to heal. And I think it's really important to center yourself and know your value that you bring to the table before you start to put yourself out into the job search market.
Marsha, I know that you have a networking group. Can you describe that to our listeners? What is it? What do you talk about? And how might that be of value to someone going through a transition?
Well, I'm co-facilitator of a senior level job search group in Northeast Ohio. And that group is for senior managers and above. So people who have worked as senior managers, directors, C-level associates within organizations are part of our group, which I have to say is relatively small right now, considering where things have been since the beginning of the pandemic. And this group meets twice a month. And what we focus on is providing the opportunity for our job seekers to network with each other and to make connections in companies that they might be applying to. So we always ask them every time they come in to describe what they're looking for and also talk about what are the 3 companies that you're looking for connections in. And it's amazing the number of times that someone else in the group can help them make those connections within these other organizations to learn about them. The other part of our meeting is focused on what are the job search obstacles that you're running into on your job search. And that's where we focus the bulk of our time and really create that ability for our job seekers to put themselves back into almost business-like setting, because we put them in small groups on breakout rooms on Zoom and allow them to come up with the answers to the questions that they're having, to the obstacles that they're dealing with.
And do you hear any common themes of obstacles that you could share with us?
Oh, many common themes come up. One of them is networking. So whether we have people who have moved into this area from another geographic area and don't have the level of networking contacts they want to have and need help in just making general connections with people. We often have people who are just not comfortable with networking. They have worked in one organization like I had at Diebold for over 30 years, and all of a sudden they're out in this new job search marketplace and don't understand the value of networking or even what the rules are, so to speak, of how to network with people. And the other thing we have is folks who are introverted, who feel very uncomfortable with networking.
How do you help them with their skills?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One is that, first of all, we're already a networking group. So we encourage all those people to network with each other, to set up a time to get together, whether it's for a cup of coffee or it's a virtual cup of coffee on Zoom. So they have that opportunity with people that they've already met, even if it's just online, to continue to have those conversations. The other thing that we do is we actually recommend to them, and this came up in just a meeting last week, that they create their own little spreadsheet of list of people that they know, and start with the people that you know and are friendly with first, and make those first few contacts and phone calls. And it will get progressively easier. So that's the recommendation that we have, is start from the people you know and you work your way out. And the other thing that I recommend, and this has come up a number of times, I don't know if it's come up on your show, but it's certainly very popular within the job search groups around here, is a book called The 20-Minute Networking Meeting. And there are different flavors of that book. So, for example, there's a 20-minute networking meeting for new college graduates, and there's one for executives, and there's one for professionals. But the basis of these books is how to have an effective networking meeting with someone, how to set them up, and what questions to ask, how to go through the process, and what kind of results you can anticipate. So that is a key piece that we recommend to all of our members.
Marsha, you've mentioned to me before a marketing plan for someone who's in transition. What does that mean and how do I develop it?
Well, a marketing plan is different than a resume. A marketing plan is actually a tool that you can use in your networking meetings. What you have in your marketing plan is the top part of your marketing plan is a listing of your competencies and your skills. It should have a statement of the types of positions you're looking for. And it also should have a description of what value add you bring to the table. So it takes kind of the top part of your resume and puts that as the beginning of the marketing plan. So if you share this with someone, they can immediately take a quick look at it and understand the types of things you're looking for and what you bring to the table. And then you also want to include in the marketing plan a list of the organizations you're looking to make contacts in. Because again, this is a part of networking. It's a networking tool. And so you can hand this to someone or share it on the screen with someone that you're having a networking meeting with, and they can quickly see where they could bring value to you.
Marsha, what can you do to help remain focused during your search for that next great opportunity?
Well, there's several things you can do to remain focused. I think one of the first ones is to create an action plan so that you have a calendar that's put together and every day you have certain activities that you're going to do. So maybe on Mondays, you might be looking at what are the new opportunities that show up on Indeed or LinkedIn. And maybe on Tuesdays, then you're following up and you're doing research on the organizations that have positions that are available. Maybe on Wednesday, then you're setting up networking meetings so that you have a schedule that keeps you engaged in the job search, but also provides you some time, because I think this is a real important thing, to take some time off from your job search. So it's not that you're going to be doing this 50, 60, 80 hours a week. You're going to be focusing a good chunk of your time, 30 to 40 hours a week, working on your job search, but allowing yourself time for self-care and allowing yourself time to connect with other people. And I think one of the other pieces that's important in terms of maintaining your focus on your job search is to have an accountability partner. And in our groups, the way we use the term accountability partner is someone else who is also in transition, who will meet with you on a regular basis. And it could be, again, over a cup of coffee, it could be a phone call, whatever time frame you and your accountability partner want to set up. But the idea of an accountability partner is someone who's going to help you maintain your momentum. And when you're going through the job search, the emotions that you go through have lows and they have highs. You might be having a really good week because you have an interview coming up and your accountability partner might have not gotten the news that they wanted on a job that they were looking for. And so maybe they're feeling a little down. So the purpose of the accountability partner is not only to make sure that you're doing the things that you've committed to yourself to do, but also to help you with the highs and lows of the emotional journey that goes along with the job search.
Marsha, you've mentioned self-care. How does your health impact you're going through a transition, and what do you coach in terms of making sure your self-care is being looked after?
I like to start out by saying that your job search starts with you. You're the most important part of that. And the way you present yourself, not only the way you speak and the skill sets that you have, but truthfully, especially when you're in that first level of job search, there's a lot that rides on how you present yourself. So self-care is important not only inside, but outside as well. I just wrote a piece that I put on LinkedIn about a week ago about an incident that occurred with my husband and his brother. And unfortunately, his brother has recently had a stroke, and my husband was down visiting his brother on the day of the Super Bowl. And they're about 2 years apart in age. And the nurse came in and she said to my brother-in-law, "Isn't it great that your son came to visit you?" Now, my husband's not his brother's son. And I used that as a point because my husband's brother and himself look very much alike. The difference is that my husband shaves his head which makes him look younger. So he doesn't have that white line of hair that goes around the sides of his head. And I really challenge job seekers to look in the mirror, because we know that may be very superficial, but especially for the job seekers that we work with who tend to be over 50, they really feel that ageism is in place. And if you don't want to be discriminated against, do everything that you can to take care of yourself, to keep your energy level up, to update your wardrobe, maybe your glasses, maybe your hairstyle, so that you appear vivacious and active and energetic. It does make a difference.
Marsha, do you think ageism does exist in the recruiting world? And other than those kind of appearance things, are there other things that you coach people to help combat what ageism is there?
I do believe that ageism exists. And I talk about the superficial, the looks first, because oftentimes those first interviews are with young people who are right out of college. The first recruiters that you talk to within an organization tend to be the HR generalists, tend to be the young folks who are right out of school. So that's where that superficial piece comes in. But yes, I do believe ageism exists. I think it's very important when you're working with job seekers to talk about how you bring value, for them to understand how they bring value into the workplace and how they can make a difference and to sell their value. I think it's also important not only to sell their value, but to stay up to date with whatever's going on in their industry. So that ongoing learning is a big piece of maintaining yourself so that you're not aging out of the workplace. And the other thing that I would say with a job seeker is to figure out for yourself before you go into the job market, what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking to move up in an organization? Are you looking to have a position that's the same level as whatever title you had previously? Are you looking for a position where you can really mentor other people? So what is it that you're looking for as you move into the workplace? And then once you are clear as far as what you're looking for, how do you sell that to the hiring manager in an interview?
Marsha, how do you coach your clients on how to deal with the shame or guilt that they might be experiencing when they have lost their job?
That shame or guilt that they might feel when they've lost their job, what I say to clients is that they need to take a step back, because it's not always about you. It truly is not always about you. And when we've lost a job, we oftentimes first blame the organization, and then we turn it around and we start blaming ourselves. But if we're really honest, many times there was a mismatch, whether it was culture, whether it was opportunity. There's some mismatch between yourself and that organization. And working through that blame, that guilt, that shame is important so that we can stand back up and look at the true values that we bring to the table. And there's another piece that I like to ask job seekers to do, and that is create an accomplishments log, because we all have accomplishments. And when I talk about an accomplishments log, I'm talking about going back to the time that you were young and maybe you first learned to ride a bicycle. Then you learned to play baseball or go swimming or whatever it is. But all the accomplishments that you've had, no matter how big or how small, all the way from the time you were a child, and just write those down on a sheet of paper and carry that with you. And whenever you're having a down moment, pull that out and pull yourself up by reviewing all of the great things that you have done.
I've used that technique, and I remember one of my clients saying after they read through that accomplishment log, I'm really not that bad of a person, am I?
Well, there's another tool that I like to talk about that goes along with that, and that is either a brag book or a portfolio. You can call it either one, but take a notebook and put in your resume, put in your marketing plan, and then put in samples of your work and some of your accomplishments. You can carry that with you into an interview and share that when it's appropriate.
Marsha, I've heard before from a recruiter to a candidate the line, refuse to feel sorry for yourself. What does that mean to you when you're going through a transition?
I think the line, refuse to feel sorry for yourself, is an invitation to look at the gifts that you bring to the table. Each one of us has gifts that we bring to the world. And it's an opportunity for you to go back and ask yourself, what situations have been the best job for me? Who are the types of people that I like to work with? What kinds of projects do I like to work on? Do I like to work independently? Do I like to work with a team of people? So I think it's really an opportunity for self-reflection to look at what's the best situation for us moving forward. Don't stay mired in the muck. Get back up, then look forward.
Marsha, how do I deal with the stress of being unemployed and looking for a job? Any coaching that you'd provide me?
There are so many different things you can do during that time of unemployment, but I think one of the most important things is share with everyone that you know that you are in job search, because you don't know where the next connection is going to come for you. And I think it's also important to be willing to ask for help. Many job seekers out there are afraid to ask for help because they want to appear to be competent and confident and that they know what they're doing. And they're afraid to ask for help because they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're doing. I think it's really important to be willing to ask for help. And on my website, and I think I have sent this to you already, Bob, to share with our listeners, a worksheet called How to Ask for Anything that walks you through the steps for putting together a good ask.
Can doing volunteer work help someone who's looking for a job?
Absolutely. In fact, there was one of our job seekers, a longtime job seeker, someone who had recently moved to this area and didn't have a lot of contacts in Northeast Ohio. He had the opportunity to join a board in the community that he lives in. By joining that board, he met a woman who was the CIO of a large organization here in town. They had an opportunity to have a networking meeting after they had met at this board meeting. He not only had one job offer from that organization where she worked because she passed his resume along to several of her directors, but he had two different job opportunities and he subsequently was hired. So you don't know who you're going to meet if you go do some volunteer work. So there's the one option right there. The other one is that when you do that work, you're giving to others. And by giving to others, you'll gain much more than just the opportunity to be out in the world. Because when you give to others, you boost your own self-esteem and your own self-confidence. And there was another job seeker who was asked to do some work a few years ago by a nonprofit to do a specific project for them. He subsequently was offered a position there. It wasn't a position that they had when he started, but they saw his skill sets and they were able to create a position for him. So there's many opportunities that come from volunteer work.
Marsha, any tips or techniques that you've heard in your networking group that particularly resonated with you that you think helped a person stand out from the other job seekers?
What I think is the most important thing that I've learned to help people stand out is several things. So it's staying on top of their industry, research. Know everything you possibly can about the organization that you're going to be meeting with. So read everything you can online, follow them in the news, follow them on LinkedIn, find other people who have worked there or are currently working there, have the conversations about their culture, their values, really get inside the organization as much as you can, because the more you know about the organization, the better opportunity you have to share how you can add value to the organization and what you bring to the table, not just your background, but also what the issues are that they're dealing with and how you can help with those.
Marsha, are there one or two activities that the job search candidate should do each day to get better results on their search?
I would say keep a journal so you stay focused. Keep a journal so that you can keep track of what you're learning, keep track of your to-dos, keep track of the follow-ups that you need to do. So I would say keeping a journal is a very big component of your success in the job search.
In your networking group, Marsha, are there any other struggles or setbacks that you've heard about that we haven't covered today? And how have you coached them to overcome those struggles or setbacks?
The biggest struggle or setback that I've heard time and time again is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They hired somebody from the inside instead of hiring me. I was the number 2 candidate. I've come in number 2 many times. So that is something that I've heard multiple times from multiple different candidates. Once they get that, the tendency is that they want to just take a step back from the search. But one of the techniques that I coach my clients on is that they should use the 3-1 rule. So 3 positive steps for every 1 negative that happens in your job search. So if that means you need to follow up with 3 of your networking contacts, or you need to put an article out on LinkedIn, or you need to go back and look at some of the organizations that you have looked at in the past, but you want to see what's going on now, make a connection. Just 3 different positive steps to move your search forward will help you move past any negative news that you get along the way.
Marsha, let's move into our lightning round where I'll give you 4 or 5 different areas. And on this one, give us your 10 or 15 second response or thoughts about the area. First one is your style and mode of dress for the interviews.
Do your homework. Find out what the style or mode of dress is in the organization. But I would always recommend dress to your best. So put on that tie and that jacket for the first interview until you know what the actual dress code is within the organization. I would dress up.
Thank you notes.
Yes, always. First by email and then follow up with a written thank you note. A written thank you note will always set you apart.
Questions that you as the applicant asks the hiring team.
Can you give me a description of the ideal candidate?
Pay or benefit discussion.
Be prepared. Do your homework, but it's certainly not the first topic.
References.
Have a list of references and make sure you let your references know if you've given their name out to an organization and what kinds of questions you would anticipate that they would get, so they're prepared.
Marsha, as we kind of wind down here, any books or other resources you'd recommend to someone going through their own personal transition?
Yes, I wrote a book. This was my COVID project called Job Search Mastery. And it came from all the work that I've done with our job search networking group. And the difference with this book is that it focuses on you as the job seeker and helps you figure out as a job seeker that our job search is not going to be a sprint. It will be a marathon. So if you're preparing for a marathon, how do you do that? So you have to focus on yourself. You have to pay attention to your attitude. You have to find a way to make yourself stand out from other candidates. And how do you maintain your momentum in your job search? So those are the 4 areas that I cover in my book. Unlike other job search books, it does not cover resumes and interview skills and networking. There are plenty of books out on that. But Job Search Mastery is all about you and maintaining your momentum and moving forward to obliterate the obstacles that are on your path to your job search.
Marsha, if our listeners only take away 3 things as they go through their own transition, what are those 3 things that you want them to remember?
It starts with you. So self-care is very important. Be willing to share that you're in a job search. So tell everyone that you're in job search and do something for yourself every day. Take the time to understand yourself as thoroughly as you can, your strengths, your values, and what you bring to the table.
Marsha, thank you so much for the great information that you shared, really for the care and feeding of the soul and the emotion of a person who is in transition. To keep that emotion and that energy up, that's the tough part, I believe. And you gave so much information in terms of how to do that. Thank you, Marsha. I really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We're working in unprecedented times as the world responds to the recent COVID-19 crisis. The fact is that even those who are not in transition understand it could be right around the corner, next month, or a year from now. The purpose of these episodes are to give listeners support and the critical tools to adjust with the winds, wherever they come. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully, perhaps gracefully or without too many battle scars, survived their own obstacle courses, and can share useful information on how to steady your ship or your world in this uncertainty. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on social media. If you have any questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I appreciate your time you're investing in sharing these important conversations with me, my guests, and others who are going through life transition. Transitions between jobs, life stages, new entrepreneurial ventures, or whatever life brings. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode of People in Transition.